Hi, welcome to the True North podcast. My name is Kimberly. I am a trauma informed, equine assisted, and integration breakthrough coach, universalizing my True North message. I believe that when we connect with our own individual True North, we are then living our divine mission and everything unfolds magically. We learn to live and love in divine timing. Welcome to the show. So today we're going to talk about daddy issues. And before anyone rolls their eyes at that phrase, before anyone turns it into a joke, or before anyone uses it as a way to dismiss women, I want to ask a different question. What if daddy issues aren't actually about daughters? What if they're about the fathers? What if they're about emotional unavailability? What if they're actually about attachment injuries? What if they're about little girls trying to survive inside emotional environments that taught them love was conditional? Because whenever someone says, she's got daddy issues, what I hear is a culture looking at the symptom and refusing to examine the source. I hear people mocking the adaptation while ignoring the wound. And I know this conversation from the inside, not from a textbook, not from certification, not from a psychology lecture, but from my own life because I had daddy issues. Absolutely. And for years, I thought that meant there was something very wrong with me. I thought it meant I was too emotional, too sensitive, too needy, too intense, too much. What I understand now is that I wasn't carrying daddy issues. I was carrying the effects of emotional abandonment. I was carrying the effects of gaslighting. I was carrying the effects of trying to earn love from someone who kept moving the finish line. And there is a huge difference between those two things. One blames the daughter, and the other tells the truth. And today, we're going to tell the truth. So I was taken from my mother when I was 3 years old. My mother was an alcoholic, and it was decided that I would live with my father and stepmother. My mother would eventually die from alcoholism when I was 28 years old. But long before she died, long before horses, long before Sedona, long before healing became my life's work, there was a little girl trying desperately to understand why love felt so difficult. From the outside, everything looked perfect. My father was a dentist. Our house looked like it could be in better homes and gardens, and the family looked respectable. The image was perfect and intact. But children do not grow up inside of appearances. Children grow up in emotional environments. And emotionally, I was starving. My stepmother would ignore me for months. As I got older, sometimes years at a time. No hugs, no affection, no emotional attunement, no safe place for me to land. The message became very clear, even if nobody ever said it out loud. I had to perform, behave, comply, achieve, not need too much, not feel too much, all around, just not be too much. And if you're listening to this and you grew up in something similar, then you already know what happens next. The child does not blame the parent. The child blames herself because blaming yourself creates the illusion of control. If it's my fault, maybe I can fix it. If I become better, maybe I'll finally be loved. If I become quieter, prettier, smarter, more successful, more obedient, maybe everything will finally feel safe. And that is the origin of so many wounds. Not a little girl deciding she is broken, a little girl deciding she must become something in order to deserve love. That belief follows us everywhere, into dating, into marriage, into friendships, into business, into spirituality, into every room that we walk into, because we're still unconsciously asking the same question. Am I enough now? Will you love me now? Will you choose me now? Will you see me now? A father is often the first masculine energy a daughter encounters, and whether we like it or not, he becomes a template. And not because she's weak, not because she's dramatic, because attachment is biology. Children come into the world wired to attach. They're constantly asking, am I safe? Am I loved? Do I matter? Can I trust what I feel? Is my voice welcome here? And when the answer is no, the nervous system adapts. A girl becomes hypervigilant. She studies tone. She studies moods. She studies facial expressions. She learns to read everyone else before she learns to read herself. And years later, people might call her empathic, psychic, and maybe she is, but some of that gift is forged in survival. Some of that sensitivity was born from learning that safety depended on accurately reading the emotional weather of a room. And this is why I get frustrated when people joke about daddy issues, because what they're often mocking is an adaptation that once kept someone alive. What they're mocking is a child who did the best she could. And what they're mocking is an attachment wound. And attachment wounds do not stay in childhood, they become adult patterns. If love felt unavailable, you may be drawn to unavailable people. If love felt conditional, you may spend your life proving your worth. If love felt inconsistent, you may mistake anxiety for chemistry. If love felt critical, you may become addicted to approval. The body confuses familiar with safe. That is one of the most important truths that I have learned. The body confuses familiar with safe. So we don't necessarily choose what is healthy. We choose what is known, and then we call it chemistry. We call it passion. We call it fate. But often, what we're feeling is recognition. The nervous system saying, I've been here before. And the tragedy that many women is that many women spend years trying to heal the father wound through men. Maybe this man will choose me. Maybe this man will stay. Maybe this man will finally see my worth. Maybe this time I'll be enough. But the wound cannot be healed through winning someone who is emotionally unavailable, because that was never the wound. The wound was believing your worth depended on being chosen in the first place. And that brings us to a conversation our culture desperately avoids: the connection between father wounds and female sexuality. A little girl becomes a young woman, her body changes, her awareness changes, and often the energy around her changes. Sometimes she's shamed, sometimes she's controlled, sometimes she's watched, sometimes she learns that her body belongs more to the family system than it belongs to her. And the message becomes confusing. Be beautiful, but not too beautiful. Be desirable, but do not desire. Be feminine, but don't be sexual. Be attractive, but don't attract attention. Be pure, be modest, be careful, be less. And underneath all of that is a devastating message that your body is dangerous. Your sexuality is dangerous. Your power is dangerous. So women split themselves. One part wants love, one part wants freedom. One part wants devotion, one part wants desire. One part wants to be seen, one part wants to hide. And we wonder why so many women struggle to feel fully integrated. And this is the Madonna whore split: the good woman versus the sexual woman, the pure woman versus the embodied woman, the woman who is respected versus the woman who is desired. And it poisons everyone. It poisons women, poisons men, it poisons relationships, because a woman cannot be whole while she is at war with her own life force. And a father who shames a daughter's sexuality often leaves wounds that echo for decades. Healing requires reclaiming sovereignty, not rebellion, not revenge, sovereignty. The realization that your body belongs to you, your voice belongs to you, your desires belong to you, your boundaries belong to you, your life belongs to you. And that is where the real work begins. Not blaming forever, not staying angry forever, not making your father the center of your story forever, but grieving, really grieving. Grieving the father you needed and did not get, the father who could not meet you, the father who could not see you, the father who could not hold your heart. Because until that grief is honored, many women remain trapped in hope, hope that someday he'll understand, hope that someday he'll apologize, hope that someday he'll become the father they always needed. And sometimes that does happen, but often it doesn't. And one of the most painful parts of healing is accepting reality, not the fantasy, reality. The father you had, not the father you deserved. And yet something beautiful happens when that grief is finally allowed. You stop chasing, you stop auditioning, you stop trying to earn what should have been freely given, and you stop mistaking longing for love. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy, and you stop calling abandonment chemistry. You stop calling control protection, and you stop handing your authority to people who have not earned it. You come home. That is the journey. And for me, horses became a profound part of that journey because horses do not care about performance and they do not care about the story. They do not care about appearances. They respond to truth. They respond to coherence. They respond to what is actually happening in the body. And after a lifetime of being gaslit, there is something extraordinary about standing beside a being that reflects reality instead of distortion. A horse cannot be manipulated into validating a false story. They show you where you are bracing, where you're abandoning yourself, and where you're seeking connection while leaving your own body. And they do it without judgment, just truth. And that medicine changed my life because healing ultimately is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you were before the wound convinced you that you had to earn your place in the world. This is also why I believe the father wound is bigger than individual families. This is cultural. Generations of men were taught to disconnect from their emotions, to suppress vulnerability, to value performance over presence, to confuse authority with intimacy, to confuse control with protection. And then those boys become fathers. And many of them loved their children, but did not know how to emotionally meet them. And that wound ripples out through generations. And today we are living inside those consequences. Women longing to feel safe, men longing to feel connected, both carrying wounds that they did not create, both inheriting stories they did not choose, and both being asked to do the healing work. Which brings me where I want to end. If you recognize yourself in this conversation, I want you to hear this. You're not broken. Your adaptations make sense. Your patterns make sense. Your nervous system makes sense. The little girl inside you was doing the best that she could. She was just trying to survive. She was trying to belong. She was trying to find love. And maybe today you stop judging her. Maybe today is the day you stop calling her needy. And maybe today is the day you stop calling her too much. Maybe today is the day you sit beside her and say, I love you. I see you. I believe you. You are not crazy and you are not hard to love. You deserve tenderness. You deserve protection. You deserve delight. And you do not have to earn love anymore because healing the father wound is not about finally getting your father to choose you. It's about finally choosing yourself. And that is sovereignty. That is healing. That is the path back to true north. And that, my friends, is where the magic begins. So thank you for being here with me today. And remember, follow no one. Your inner compass knows, and you are the magic.